Hi, and welcome to 10 Kids, 2 Docs, Parenting Insights from Pediatrician Moms. I'm Dr. Sylvia Bank.
And I'm Dr. Vivian Carlin. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
As our listeners may know, about every 10 episodes, we like to do a look back on the episodes we've released and then relate that back to things that we've seen in the news. As everyone knows, there's certainly been a lot of press around pediatric issues this past couple of months. So I think, Sylvia, you and I have a lot of things on our mind that we could discuss in this episode.
Absolutely. Let's jump in.
Welcome to the 10 Kids, 2 Docs podcast. Seasoned pediatricians and longtime friends, Sylvia Bank and Vivian Carlin have counseled thousands of parents and are raising 4 and 6 kids, respectively. Join these doctor moms as they incorporate fun and their combined wisdom and experience to share parenting insights for anyone looking for practical and trustworthy guidance. Please note that this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment from your doctor.
So it's fall time now. Here in Maryland, the air is getting very crisp, and we have finally settled all of our kids in school, right, Vivian? Tell me how many different schools and how many different drop-offs you did this year.
Oh, okay. So I did 3 college drop-offs. As you know, that was tricky. That was kind of brutal. That made an entire 4 weeks where I felt like our entryway was constantly loaded with stuff that was going to be loaded into a car and driven off to college. And now, that all of those drop-offs are complete, a really astute listener may notice that I've changed space in my house. I have my own quote unquote recording studio. So this is really awesome. And then I have 2 that are in middle school, so I got them started, and then 1 who is a freshman in high school. So technically I had those 2 schools plus my 3 different colleges. So I guess 5.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And that's a lot.
And then you also had someone starting middle school, starting high school, starting college, right?
Yes, that's right. I have a freshman in college, a freshman in high school, and a 6th grader. You're right. I mean, the other ones are a little bit more just, they know the system, they know what they're doing. Those transition points are more tricky for sure.
Congratulations for getting all your kids settled in school, right? It's a big
Right. Yes. I mean, everybody has successfully continued to get to school on time and for the most part is getting their homework done. And the college kids are all alive and seem to be doing okay. So yes, I pat myself on the back.
Great.
How about you, Sylvia?
Yeah. So I did 2 college drop-offs, and unfortunately for us, it was the same day. So sometimes that happens. They go to different schools. So there was definitely you had the staging area where one child staged all their stuff in one area and another child had another staging area. And then we, of course, had to divide and conquer where my husband dropped off one child and then I dropped off the other one at college. But that went smoothly. And then I had a high schooler start, and they are juniors. So it wasn't like a new experience. It was all smooth sailing. And then lastly, my oldest child who's graduated from college, we actually just recently moved him into an apartment, into his own adult space for him to start grad school in the spring.
Yeah.
So everyone finally for me is now settled into their space for the year.
I feel like that transition of having a child who has graduated from college and is now entering, higher level education or the workforce, totally another level in parenting.
Yeah,
and I feel
it's next level adulting, right?
Yes.
For my young adult, I didn't have to find his apartment or help him with a packing list like we do when we're launching our kids to college. Did you bring this? Do you have this? He's an adult now. So it was more just he might need some help moving some stuff in, but everything was completely him independent. And that is a relief. It's reassuring to know that I don't have to look after and remind him and tell him what to do anymore. So I think that part of the adulting phase, I very much appreciated.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that being said, as we launched into season 2 in August, we released several school-related topics, right?
We did. We talked about school discipline. We had those 2 episodes on giving parents the language for understanding special education. I feel like both of those are going to set us up really nicely for something I'm so excited that we have coming up. And that is a 3-part series on autism.
Mm.
People have been asking us to talk about autism, and we just have an amazing guest coming to talk about autism. Just to give you a little preview, she's a child and adolescent psychiatrist, so a physician who is specialized in taking care of children with diagnoses like autism. So the majority of her practice through her entire career has been on children with autism. And she has a son who is diagnosed with autism. So she has that just amazing insight as both a practitioner who specializes in caring for children with autism and as a parent who's living
Mhm.
it in her home. I
Mhm.
am super excited about that. And there are things we reference in that episode where it's really helpful to understand how the special education system works.
Mhm.
And we tried our best to cover that. And I felt like even in 2 episodes, it's hard to cover.
Right.
And I hope that was understandable for people. Like
No, I
I
felt like it was a great overview. I feel like I learned a lot about it, right?
okay, well, I'm glad because it still is sort of it feels like a little bit like learning another language. And I even still trip up over some of the words as I'm talking about it.
Mhm. I mean, there are experts in the education field that know the ins and outs of all of these acronyms and all of these programs too. But I feel like our episodes were a really good first pass primer for parents who don't know anything about it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a little bit of our niche because almost any episode we've done, we did gentle parenting, we did baby-led weaning, we touched on special education, we're going to talk about autism. There are entire podcasts that are just devoted to each of these topics that have
Right.
hundreds of episodes just on this one topic. So, and when you think about it, it's funny. What we see is, okay, we're able to take what is a 30 to 90-second discussion in the office to a 20-minute discussion here on the podcast. Well, those people are taking that even further from our 20-minute discussion into like an entire series on this
Yes.
particular topic.
No, I'm
So,
really excited about our special guests this season because we touched on it in season 1 with our parental loss series. And
mhm.
I think that we've really found guest speakers who, like us, are both experts in their field and also have a life experience in that topic as well. You said with this guest that we're having on our autism series, she is both a pediatric psychiatrist and a mother of an autistic child. And that type of insight and information, I think that's what we're really shooting for in our podcast, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like when we, as you know, when we've interviewed these people and I come away with so much more knowledge, I know that's going to be helpful to parents.
Right, absolutely. So, why don't we then move to some of the, like you mentioned in the intro, hot topics that have pediatrics first and foremost in the news?
Yeah, we are. So where do you want to start?
Maybe we should talk about some of the recent announcements from the Health and Human Services Department. So, recently, the HHS has been reevaluating the vaccines in the childhood vaccine schedule and critically looking at them and their utility and giving recommendations on that for the American people. And one of the recommendations that came out recently was that there is a combination vaccine with the measles, mumps, rubella, and the chickenpox vaccine called the MMRV that is sometimes given in place of 2 separate shots. They're given in one
Mhm.
shot. And the HHS announced that they felt like the MMRV combination vaccine should not be given to children under 4 years old.
Yeah, so I am excited because we are working on a series now on vaccines. And our mission in that is to equip our listeners with the knowledge base that we have as physicians so that they can be an informed decision maker. We present them options, we talk about the pros and cons, and then we have a discussion, we decide what's best for the child. Well, vaccines has always been very different, and that's because we're trying to like just make it easier for parents. This has been well studied and well thought out, and these schedules are very, very purposeful, and this is what we should do for our children. And I sense that part of that HHS announcement about vaccines and the press around it is that I want there to be a little bit of a shift amongst our listeners of, okay, not only are you being told by your pediatrician this is the best thing to do, but you have all of the knowledge. Like you understand why it's the best thing to do. And you're going in making this decision for your child, right?
Mhm.
This is a joint decision. So I'm excited. That will also probably be a part series where we
Yeah.
just want to equip listeners. We want you to understand, what is measles, what is rubella, what is pneumococcus, all
Right.
of these diseases, as well as how did the vaccine schedule come about. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that dovetails really nicely with how it's been so highlighted in the news.
Yeah. When RFK Jr. became head of that department, he made an announcement that he wanted to get to the bottom of the cause of autism, right? Like this was kind of one of his goals as the leader
Mhm.
of HHS. There was recently released, as a lot of people may know, a report saying that they thought there was a link between Tylenol use in pregnant mothers and then the subsequent development of autism in that fetus. So why don't you give me your thoughts on that announcement?
Yeah, I want to say that I think we would all agree. I mean, I certainly feel it as a pediatrician. I love the idea that somebody wants to champion autism.
Right.
I think as pediatricians, we recognize that a lot of times research and certainly like reimbursement for illness is weighted towards adult diseases, and so I think there's a little bit more of a battle sometimes in pediatrics. So I love that anyone is out there like so impassioned that this is what they're going to take on. I can definitely say that, right? Like, yes, I'm sure there are many, I can only imagine that there are many parents of autism that are excited that they're getting so much recognition. I think that we as physicians, we are also very sensitive to this idea of not creating false hope and also not creating false guilt either. So it kind of works in both ways.
You and I had a discussion as to whether or not we thought we took Tylenol in the 7, 8 years that we were collectively pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's very, very hard to remember that time. And I can only imagine if I was a parent of an autistic child trying to think back to, did I take Tylenol during my pregnancy? And could that have been the reason why my child developed autism? I think that's a very difficult position for a parent to be in, right?
Yeah.
I feel like as people think about the scientific method and how we learned it in school, a lot of discovery comes from a hypothesis, like a
Mhm.
theory that gets thrown out there. And then based on that theory, experiments, studies, tests are done to prove or disprove that theory. And in my opinion, implicating Tylenol as a potential cause for autism is a hypothesis. It's a theory. It has been maybe seen in some studies already, but more studies need to take place in order for that conclusion to be made. So, in my opinion, it is still in the hypothesis early phase, and it's not a conclusive statement at this point. And I feel like there's maybe some confusion in the interpretation of the announcement, perhaps, in saying that it is the cause of autism. And I want listeners to be cautious that I don't know if there's enough evidence yet to make that conclusion, right?
Right, right. I think the other thing, which we're going to tease out a little bit in our upcoming vaccine series, is we have to be super careful about when we find a correlation between two events and then determining causality.
Yeah, I feel like the interpretation that I hope the public has is that there's a theory and more studies need to be done to prove that this is actually the cause. There was something else that I saw, a American Academy of Pediatrics National Conference just last month, September 2025, where there was a topic titled Eco Influencers Promote Misinformation About Child Health. So I'd like to take a moment to talk about this article.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, they coined this phrase eco-influencer, where the content creator brand themselves as a natural, holistic, or green parenting voice. So someone who is making videos along the lines of messages that resonate with families who want a more simple, maybe non-medical solutions. A lot of these TikTok influencers can promote parenting advice that isn't in alignment with what your pediatrician or the American Academy of Pediatrics would recommend.
Yeah, I'm looking at this article now, and it says about 10% of the videos in the group that they looked at were created by healthcare professionals. So 90% were not created by healthcare professionals.
Right.
And I want to point out too that when they took their sampling of a large number of videos, half of those creators said that they were parents. So that means that half aren't even parents. They're giving this, like, they're not parents and they're not health professionals, and they're giving this advice.
Right. And I think this highlights people should look at their sources, right? Look who's giving you the advice. I think in the short reel format that people consume a lot of their social media on, unfortunately, you don't know if they're a doctor, and honestly, you don't know if they're a parent giving you advice. So I think it makes it more difficult as people are consuming more and more information in a lot of different forums to really kind of know what's news, what's not news, what's real recommendations, what's something someone made up. I think that puts people at a difficult place to fact check and evaluate. Is this something that I really want to believe in and follow? Right?
Right. Along those lines, I'd really like to talk just a little bit about social media because, we released our first 2 episodes on social media at the beginning of this season as well. And I think an event that has occurred since we released those episodes that really highlights some of the things we said in that episode was the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And there's a couple of reasons I want to bring that up as it relates to social media. And obviously, there are so many issues related to that event. But when we talked about social media, one of our main points, again, was that the algorithms are designed to continue to sustain your attention. And we actually know through psychology that creating a negative emotion in you is actually more addictive than a positive emotion, right? And I think that singular event, as it was very polarizing in some contexts, was a really good opportunity that I found to be talking to my older children who have social media about what are you seeing on your social media feed? How are you feeling after you're on your social media feed? Being careful about using social media as a news source because social media is continuing to lead you in a certain direction one way or another, and you need to step back. When there's an issue that's so polarizing, I really want my children to be able to voice both sides of an issue, to understand both sides of an issue. It's great to have opinions, and strong opinions even. You should think about issues and have strong opinions. But we are going to have to understand how to relate to the rest of the world that thinks differently, because this is going to happen in our own home at some point too. We're going to have different opinions on different issues, and we need to understand how to discuss that with each other. And the other thing that event really caught my attention on as far as the health of our children in the US is that for people that saw the actual video of the assassination, it was exceptionally horrific, right? And graphic. And of course, my thoughts and prayers continue to go out to his family. And that was just a horrific incident. And as soon as I saw it, I texted my older children who are on social media and was like, you're going to see this video. Let me warn you, either don't watch it or watch it one time and stop. But the point I wanted to make with regards to children's healthcare is in that moment, first, I was kind of sad. I went through a grieving process of, not only for the event, but because I remember growing up when, the nightly news would be on and there would be this statement of warning, this content is graphic. And then there would be a blurring out of the video on the TV. And that's all that we would see. And then I remember in the earlier days of the internet, when there might be a video that's posted that a few people see and then it's taken down. If you Googled it, you would get a message this video has been removed for graphic content. And in this case, that video proliferated so fast. I mean, I saw the video come up before I had even heard anything on the news. It was within 15 minutes of the event that it proliferated so fast. There was no time to react. There was no ability to remove that video. And that's kind of the world that we're now raising our children in. And I was very thankful because, as I've mentioned before, Texas passed this summer a rule that students are not allowed to have cell phones out during the school day, from the beginning of school to the end of school. And while, as expected, I know that my high school student still saw that video from a friend before he came home from school that day, I at least felt that middle schoolers and elementary schoolers were probably protected from the fact that kids did not have cell phones out during the day. And I just worry that if all of them had had cell phones, everybody who's given a cell phone at those ages out during the day, that there might have been younger children that saw that video without us as parents even having time to react.
Yeah. No, I think you make a really good point here. What is our role as parents when these types of things are happening in the world, in our society? First of all, you talked about having a discussion, right? Like, this is the time where if your child is old enough to have a discussion about what happened, what are the issues here? What led to this? What do you feel? And how does this reflect our belief system and our views of our society? I encourage parents, no matter what your beliefs are, to engage your child in conversation about this.
Yeah, yeah. And it highlights, I mean, it's hard to be a parent in these times. Like we used to have a little bit more control on these types of things that our children were viewing or seeing. And now we really don't.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to figure that out.
Right. And I think the best course of action, especially the younger kids, just kind of shielding them from social media and media, like we mentioned in our social media episodes, that we feel like 16 is the age that maybe kids could get social media and start being exposed to these things, but to not stop at that, to engage our child in conversations and thoughts about what they're seeing and what they're viewing, right? I think every parent should continue to do that. As we're moving forward and we're developing quite a library of episodes, we try to highlight in each group of 10 or so episodes topics that cover infants, toddlers, school-age children, preteens, and teens. And one of the things I'm pretty excited about is that I created some playlists on YouTube where if you are a parent of an infant, out of our 40 plus episodes we've recorded thus far, these are the episodes that relate to your age group, and, same thing for toddlers, school age children, and teens. So if you are new to our podcast and are looking to listen to advice about your child who is a specific age group, I encourage you to check out these playlists that I've made on YouTube through our YouTube channel. And then you can see all of the episodes that pertain to your child's age group right now. So please have a look and see whether or not there are topics out there that we've already covered that actually might apply to you and you have questions for today.
Sounds good. I am really excited about all of the stuff that is coming up for release.
Mm-hmm. Me too. What do we have in our next block of episodes, Vivian? Let's take a look.
Well, we have our 3-part series on autism coming up.
Yes.
We have our multi-part series on vaccines coming up.
Mm-hmm. Like, we are hitting some heavy topics here. And just as a preview, we've gotten, like we said earlier, some great guest speakers to help us explore these hot topics in the news right now and give you their expert professional opinions too.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So again, I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. We couldn't be a podcast without listeners. So thank you so much for joining us for season 2. And if you have any thoughts or feedback, we're beginning to get a little bit of feedback through our multiple platforms. Please reach out to us. We are excited to hear from you. And if you have any topics that you would like us to cover, please let us know that as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, well, this is 10 Kids, 2 Docs. I'm Dr. Vivian Carlin.
And I'm Dr. Sylvia Bank. We will see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to 10 Kids, 2 Docs, hosted and created by Sylvia Bank and Vivian Carlin. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and recommend our podcast to other listeners. Visit our website at 10kids2docs.com, where you can find links to social media and leave comments or suggestions. Back next week with more topics in parenting.